Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So they fume me heavily, as usual. It's foggy out there and it seems to be making it so the fumes hit harder and differently. Really quickly, I want to point out that the Pope died on 420, Hitler's birthday, at 88, which is a satanic white supremacist number in the occult. The 8 is the H, and the two H's together, right, means, hey, quote unquote, hail, and the second word is Hitler. And that's not a coincidence. And I was talking about how the Safeway incidents the other day weren't a coincidence. If you've been following my videos recently, you see that there's a bunch of things that couldn't be coincidences have occurred, and I called them out. And yesterday morning, when I was making those videos, and I was talking about how these things aren't a coincidence, the Pope was passing away, right? I think I actually left my house later than usual yesterday, but not by much. So I probably was making those videos about 8:30, and the Pope was on the other side of the world, dying at 7:35. Something to that effect happened. I made some other videos throughout the day or so. And then this morning, it comes out in the news because I don't check the news at night usually. So the news from BBC, for example, was 7 hours ago. So it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, when it would have come out. Anyway, so yeah, obviously it's not a coincidence, right? And there's a good chance that I'll be dying soon from the fumes and the poisons and the threats that they're saying and the patterns that I see. However, they could be bluffing, but it's very unlikely. I put this at, it's extremely likely that they plan to scream me out in the next couple days. However, they tend to kind of set the stage for me to come to think that that's a distinct possibility, and then I speak on it. Okay, and in the past I've spoken on it a certain way, and so I'm not going to kind of put a lot of stock in it, but it's important that you know that they have not been reasonable recently, and they're moving in a certain way that is likely to bring about my death one way or another, right? The fumes, the poisons, and there's other things to consider as well. Oh, before I forget, yesterday I made the video about a Congresswoman, Murkowski, I believe her name was, and she was saying that they're all afraid, and they're afraid of retaliation, okay? And I don't know if she knew the Pope was dead. I didn't know the Pope was dead at that time. I didn't know till maybe half an hour ago or so. And, the old, I don't give a damn if it's the Pope routine, right, has occurred here. And you see the 88 for the white power. So, again, it's the whites, Jews, and LGBT community doing it, right, in terms of their governing class, in terms of the people behind the scenes. Not necessarily all of them, right? I mean, everybody who's not obeying God through me is complicit to some degree, right? One who's slacking his work is brother to one who destroys. But it's their kind of governing class, their structure, right? That's why it's called a white power structure. It's not just rich people. There's a bunch of people helping them out, right? And so it is with the white, Jewish, and LGBT power structure, the neo-colonial power structure. Okay, so that's important to note in this case too. So as we see it all come together, it's clear that no one should reproduce. It's clear that the world is an evil place. The Jews are concerned with reproduction. The LGBT community is concerned with control and reproduction, and the whites are all concerned with control and reproduction, right? You see the Hitler eugenics, right? Nazi eugenics. Before World War II, the Jews, many Jews praised the eugenicists, and the Bible says, "Be fruitful, multiply," and they twist that all the time to mean X, Y, and Z. And it's not talking about the flesh of the Jews. It's talking about, Noah, right? It's talking about people who are right with God at that time. But we're at a time where no one should reproduce no matter what. I've said it so many times, probably in over 1,000 videos by now. I've really scrambled to get that message out there. I even put it on bumper stickers on the rental cars when I went on those trips. Also, it's important to note that the situation I'm in, when you consider the threats that they're making, when you consider what's going on in the news, what they've told me covertly, what they've told me in person in various ways, and they have a certain covert way of communicating, like, law enforcement does, prison gang members do, Freemasons, okay? They've, over the years, and they've verified this to me. The trolls even have said things that verify this to me, that they communicate in person, okay? With, you might say body language, the way that they do things. I'm not going to get into detail about it too much. But the situation I'm faced with now is to either be screened out or to be a slave and grovel. And it's even worse than that. To be a slave and grovel on the off chance that they quote unquote take it easy on me. But I'm Christ and I'm in charge. Okay? And when I get screened out, that's it. They can no longer give me a hard time. I say to them, 10 years from now, when you look back at it, ask yourself how fast the time has flown by. And ask yourself, was it smart to screen out Jesus now that you're 10 years closer to meeting your maker, and so on and so forth. So they do not have the chips in their hands. I have the moral high ground. I have the high ground. I'm ready to die for God on the drop of a hat. But never forget that your governing class, the people who claim they care about you and their families and so on and so forth, they put Christ, the Son of God, the most righteous person ever lived. For those of you who are too ignorant to know that that's the case, okay, somebody with a universal scale who's the most righteous person ever lived, they have no counter argument for that. They put me in that situation for no reason. Some of the people that worked for them said, hey, he's not going to go for that. This is a wash. They said, work around him. And they didn't listen. They didn't care. They wanted to make sure that you're all screwed in a satanic new world order. And it's not just a Jew world order. It's also whites and LGBT. And these words are kind of like, the white and the Jew, right? Scientists said that races don't exist, right? There's a lot of overlap with these races. Okay, so that's another thing to consider. But it's definitely a white, Jewish, and LGBT heavy New World Order, and the central bloodlines are from their groups. But never forget that they put me in that situation, and that nobody in my shoes, and nobody who'd honor God to, the bare minimum degree or better, would do what these devils expect me to do. I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to finish strong here on this trajectory. And hopefully, around 24 hours from now, 48 hours from now, my flesh will be dead, and then it'll really kick in. They'll really realize that they're screwed, that there's no way back for them, that their offspring are screwed. Being a fanatic atheist is not smart. Name one person in history who was a smart person who was a fanatic atheist. Doesn't exist. One great wise martial artist who was a fanatic atheist. Doesn't exist. So everyone who's smart that ever lived would not take a fanatic atheist stance in life, much less when it comes to the most righteous person that ever lived. Period.